Hi, second graders. It's Mrs. Sylvester here with some reading for you today. So I am on our Google slideshow or in your remote learning packet on our first reading passage, and it is called The Softball Team. And I jumped ahead and I looked at our key question and our reading skill, and it is about describing the character with some character traits and finding the text evidence to support that trait. So here is our key question. What makes someone a good team member? And you yourself maybe can make a text to self connection if you have been on a team or if you already know what it means to be a good team member. So let's read our story and think about our main character. And as I said, we have 4 boxes to describe the character in using some good adjectives. And we can also cite the text evidence to support that trait. So here is our title, The Softball Team. It looks like a realistic fiction story. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. All right. And I can see here we will have some dialogue too. So I'm going to practice my best fluency as I read what the characters say. "Okay, class, go and choose your teams," said Mrs. Wright. "I'll be out in just a few minutes." Everyone in our class runs outside. This week it's Jenna and Mark's turn to be team captains. We take turns every week. I can tell that Jenna and Mark are excited about being the ones to choose. We all know who the best players are and the worst. The best player in the class is Chin. He hits the ball every time. He's also a good catcher. Some of the other kids are good pitchers, but Chin is the best at that too. I'm an okay pitcher, but I always end up playing in the outfield. It doesn't bother me much. No one ever hits the ball out there except for Chin. So I'm going to stop there and think about what's happening in the story so far. It looks like we are, the story's being told by one of the characters who we don't know his or her name, but I know it's being told from their point of view since they're saying I. And it looks like we also have Jenna and Mark and then Chin. And connecting with the title about the softball team, looks like they're getting ready to play softball maybe out at recess. All right, let's keep going. So if the narrator, the person telling the story, is the main character, he or she's describing how they're just an okay pitcher but they usually have to play in the outfield. Let's see if Chin hits it out there. "And if the ball ever gets out to where I am, most of the time I miss it. I guess you'd say I'm one of the worst players. I don't really like to compete." Jenna and Mark start picking their team members. Jenna picks Chin right away. Big surprise. Mark picks Arnie. Arnie's really funny. He's always cracking everyone up. Then it's Jenna's turn again, and she picks Maria. Maria hits the ball pretty often, but she always falls when she runs. I wonder why Jenna picked her before some of the better players. My ears perk up when I hear Mark's next pick. It's Taylor. Taylor never catches a ball. Never. This is getting interesting. Now I see we have a special text feature, a Did You Know box. Let's see what it says. It might connect with the text. It might give us some extra information. Did you know one difference between softball and baseball is the size of the ball? In softball, the balls are bigger and softer. So that's like a real fact about the game of softball and baseball, but not really about our story going on here. Okay, I'm down to the 3rd page. A few more kids get picked, and I'm surprised at them all. I look at Jenna, and she looks at me. Then she smiles. Then I hear my name come out of her mouth. Sarah! She wants me as a pitcher. For the first time in weeks, I actually feel like a team member. And that is the end of the text. So we found out at the end that the character telling us the story is a girl named Sarah, and we can use her as our main character. So on my organizer here, I can type in her name, Sarah, that we finally found out at the end. And our directions say, we'll read the key question, which we did, what makes someone a good team player? Then read the story, and we're looking for details about the main character to describe her. And we have 4 different boxes to write a character trait. So let me go back into the text. And we had a lot of details about some of the other characters and about the setting. But I would say, here's a definite description of the main character saying, I'm an okay pitcher, but I always end up playing in the outfield. It doesn't bother me much. And then she even goes on to say, I guess you'd say I'm one of the worst players. I don't really like to compete. So sometimes when we choose words to describe our characters, we can't find just one word, but maybe we need to use a phrase. So I'm just going to say, she doesn't like to compete. And also I'm going to say, she feels she's an okay pitcher, but the worst, well, one of the worst players overall. Now we had, towards the end here, she was describing how the 2 team captains, Jenna and Mark, were picking different kids to be on their team. And she was wondering a little bit about why Jenna picked, for example, Maria, and then Mark picked Taylor. And she said it's getting interesting, so maybe a little curious for why they're choosing the players that are being picked. It seems like she's expecting the best players to get picked first, but maybe a little surprised, or again, I can use the word curious. Now, the author did not use that word at all. She didn't say, oh, I'm feeling curious, but sometimes as a good reader, we can read the details, read the evidence, and then come up with our own word, our own adjective to describe the character. So I'm going to say she is curious about the team captain's picks. And then I remember at the end, she was feeling surprised when she got chosen. And she even said, I actually feel like a team member. So maybe she's feeling surprised and really happy, relieved. And don't forget that a good reader also gets details from the illustration or photograph. So down here, I'm thinking that this little girl in the blue cap and blonde hair is maybe Sarah, since she's really happy to have been chosen. So I'm going to say she is happy to be picked as a team member. Okay. So in going back to our key question, we thought about 4 different ways to describe the character. I chose to write sentences, but sometimes you can't just write a word or a phrase, but thinking about what makes a good team member. And I think that Sarah, she learned that a good team member doesn't just have to be the best. She said that Chin was one of the kids who could hit the farthest, I think. He was the best at maybe catching. Yep, it says right here in the 3rd paragraph, he hits the ball every time. He is also a good catcher. He's the best at being a good pitcher also. But then as she noticed Jenna and Mark picking other players, she was kind of surprised that you don't just have to be the best. And so maybe she learned that someone is a good team member, not just because of their being the best or having great skills, but maybe for other things. Now, the text didn't tell me any specific details about a team member maybe needing to have a good attitude or knowing how to play the game, but I can make that inference or that conclusion that a good team member doesn't necessarily have to be the best, but just would be a good part of the team. So let me answer the question. What makes someone a good team member? Someone is a good team member not because they are the best, but it is important to work hard and have fun on the team. Sarah was surprised that the best, or I'm going to say the kids who were not as good at the game were still chosen to be on the team. She probably learned that a good team member is more than just being good at the game. And we talk a lot about that in our own life. I know in second grade we talk about working hard, and it's not about getting the answer right, but the effort that you put in and that you can always improve. And so there are some sports where you compete, and a lot of people do agree that it's fun to win, but being a good team member, it's more than just getting the score and winning, but probably about having fun with your friends. And especially too, as I looked at the illustration and thought about the setting, if they're playing at recess, no doubt they are just playing for fun, and that's what is most important. So great job reading along with me and answering the questions to describe our main character. Those traits can help me think about maybe a big idea from the text. Your next story that you have following this passage is called What's Cooking? And for your reading response, you won't be describing the main character, but instead you'll be going back and answering the key question and thinking about some key details. And it looks like the story will be about different inventions or improvements to an original invention. And I'm guessing it has something to do with cooking. So that will be neat too. Great job, second graders. Keep up your good reading. And you know that your teacher and I and all the second grade teachers are very proud of you. We'll see you soon.